So we are going to start the first class of the subject computer architecture. Before we dive into the detail of architecture, I don't want to start with some formal definition of a computer architecture. Rather, we will start from realizing and visualizing the how one exact computer systems look like. So if you go back your previous semesters, say for second semester or maybe before that in school level, we had idea about a basic diagram of a computer, right? We have seen that. I mean, let's draw it once again. If we forget about the input device and output device for a moment, the for middle part that we have in a computer, mainly, so this is the actual part of the computer which we say central processing unit, right? Yes, we know that obviously input device and output device is there. Now this input and output device is just acting a supporting device to act some data in this central processing unit, but actual functionality, most of the functionality actually present in this CPU, right? And we know that this CPU has mainly two parts. That also we have seen. In one side we have, say, we can say processing unit, and in one side we say it's memory unit, right? Now if you enter within the processing unit, we know that it contains mainly two, I mean, two most important component. One part is arithmetic and logic unit, which serves all the functionality for arithmetic and logical operations, and a very important part that is left is control unit. Control unit controls this ALU and other parts of the system. I have ignored some small components. Just I have written the main components in the system, and obviously we have a communication line between memory unit and processing unit. The data that I want to work with, I mean the machine works with, somehow stored in the memory unit, and if it is required, it is taken to the data, taken to the processing unit, it works on data, and result gets stored in the memory unit again, right? So this is the basic diagram that we all know. Now in this subject, we will start with, you know, magnifying the components present over here. Now if you magnify the CPU part, which represents 90% part of the computer system, how the inner components are connected with each other, and that's very important, and that actually a basic knowledge that is required to realize the computer architecture. So let's draw the basic components within a computer system and how they are connected with each other one by one. So let's draw it and then I will explain. Okay. So I will start with designing the most important part of the system. Conventionally, this is a diagram of ALU. Okay. So if this is an ALU, it needs two data, input to register is there in the input of the ALU, from where actually the data on which the ALU will work, that may be addition, subtraction, doesn't matter. The data before operating on within the ALU, the data is stored in these two registers. And this register name, one of them name is accumulator. You might have heard the name. And another name is called data register. I will draw the connection later. Now, other than these two, I have some other registers also, and some of them are called general purpose register. Actually, registers are of two types. One type is called general purpose register and another type is called special purpose register. General purpose registers are stored data on which the ALU will operate. And I'm drawing some general purpose register, something like, it looks something like, for example, let's draw it first, then I will show it. Uh, what is this? These are the actually register names. Okay, B, C, D, E, H, L. Now, you may ask me that why you have given the register name something like this. Actually, to show you the basic architecture of a computer, I have taken an example of what you can say 8085 version microprocessor. Okay. Now, this 8085 version microprocessor has a specific register name something like B, C, D, E and H, L, and they are connected somehow in this way, so that maybe B can work individually and C can work individually, and if required B and C can merge within themselves and act as a whole. And this is same for D, E and H, L also. So remember one thing, depends on the other version of the microprocessor. If you consider the other version of the microprocessor from 8085, the next one 8086, then 80186, then 80286, then in this way we are in the era of i9 processor. But the basic computing modules remain same almost in all the processor, and the basic module starts from this 8085 microprocessor. That's why I have taken an example from this. Now, other than this is all about this BCD and HL are all about the general purpose register, and these two that is given here are special purpose register. What is the functionality of this, that I am coming very soon, but before that some special purpose register is still to write. One is present here. Then another is here. This one is called instruction register, and this one is called instruction decoder. Now, one thing is very important that is left if you compare with this, that control unit. So I must have a block over here that will basically represent the timing and control unit. Naturally, question will come that why we are writing timing. So we will try to realize it very soon, but before that one thing is left. If you consider the whole thing, the memory unit you cannot ignore, because this particular memory unit store the instruction and the data. So let's take an imaginary memory unit over here. Take an example. Suppose I have a memory unit something like this, which is representing your RAM. Okay, and we have a lot of locations over here. Like this. Something like this. And now let's draw the communication line that is required. So there are two types of communication line represented. Actually, three types of communication line. I mean, let's write one by one, then I'm just draw it over here. Communication line are of three types. What are the types? One is called, actually communication line or communication signal, whatever you can say. One is called data bus, one is called address bus, and one is called control bus. Bus is nothing but a group of lines, group of communication lines. Okay, and this data bus means it carries all the data, that means in some form, maybe obviously in 10 form. Address bus is the same thing, but which carries an address. Address of what? Address of the memory location, because each and every memory location must be associated with an address, right? Some address. And the control bus carries, obviously in form of 10, carries all the control signals. What are the possible control signals is there? It can be say chip select, it can be say read, or can be say write bar, or can be something like uh, say addition is a control signal, subtraction is another control signal, and in this way you may have n number of control signal in a system, depends upon what that particular system works. Now if I just forget about the address bus right now because of this space, let's draw the data bus which connects all these uh, intermediate components. So we have, you can imagine in this way that we have a something like a common data bus that connects each and every line. So it's something like an highway, you can imagine in this way, which connects with each and every component of the system. Just try to realize the direction of this arrow. It is not a both way direction. That means whatever present in the instruction register should not go in the common data line. Why it will not go? That I am coming very soon. And so you see, I have kept this both way arrow in on the C register, doesn't mean it is connected with C only. I just assume that it is somehow connected with all the registers. Okay, and so this is all about the communication line. Now if I consider about the control line or control signal, let's draw the control signal first. Control signal is what? controlling each and every component in the system. Now who is controlling this? Obviously the timing and control unit. So that means all the control signals are actually generated from this particular component, and it is directly connected with each and every component individually. So that means the control signal will be will be directly connected with this, obviously connected with this, and in a similar way it will be connected with this, something like, and obviously connected something like this. I mean, I'm drawing this arrow means actually it is connected with each and every each and every registers individually. Just assume that this one line is representing all the connections. In a similar way, the control signal is controlling the RAM also, and obviously the other parts also, something like this, right? So now question is that what is the purpose of this SP and PC? What is SP? So let's write it first. The full form of SP is stack pointer, and full form of PC, you know, I think that is program counter. So now what is the purpose of this program counter? It stores, we all know, it stores address of next instruction, right? So that means for at a particular time being, just assume a situation that a set of instruction is stored on this RAM. Obviously when you write a program and you try to execute that program, before executing, what happened? Generally this part we ignore, but just you try to realize or try to understand the point that before you execute, before the program that you have written and stored in some hard disk, before executing that program, first of all we all know that program has to convert in some machine level form. Machine level form means in some instruction level form, and those instructions where will get stored? Those instructions get stored within the RAM for time being, and one by one those instructions come out from the RAM and go in the instruction register first. But how a processor will understand from where, from which address the instruction has to take out? That is why the program counter is present, because it stores the address of the next instruction. So if I assume the program is just about to start executing, that means the the address from where the program instruction has started will be kept in the program counter initially, right? And then depends on the program counter, I mean there is one more register, I have not mentioned it over here, that is the register name is MAR. Okay, the full form is memory address register. So this from program counter, the address is placed in these memory address registers, which is directly connected with this common data line. Okay, I mean sorry, common address line. It is common data line I have shown. I have not shown the address line because the total, I mean diagram will become little bit complex. Just assume that we have some address line over there which is connected with this memory address register, and at the same time the control unit generates a control signal, for example say read control signal for the RAM. That means depends on this control signal, since the memory address register contain the address from where the data or instruction has to fetch, the address is available on the address bus. At the same time, since read signal is activated, what will happen? The instruction present in that particular location of the RAM will be available on the common data line through this particular junction. Now at the same time, after just couple of time, I mean maybe in the next clock cycle, the instruction register, the read input of the instruction register should be, I mean sorry, yes, the read input of the register, I mean instruction register should be activated, so that whatever present in the common data line is stored in the instruction register for time being. And this is what actually part of fetching the instruction from the memory to the processing unit. After fetching this instruction, the processor has to understand what is the meaning of the instruction, what has to do, because the instruction can be for an addition, can be for an subtraction, can be copying from one place to another place, can be anything. Actually whatever, all the different type of operation that we do in a computer system is basically some instruction, right? So that's why this instruction decoder is present, and this instruction decoder takes, obviously after a clock cycle, at some point of time the instruction decoder will take the instruction present in the instruction register and it decodes. Now we all know what about decoder. Decoder actually produces some outputs having, say, combination of a ones and zero, which has a specific meaning. Now for example, it may happen, just you can assume in this way, that maybe the in decoder output 0001, it mean addition, and 0010 it means subtraction, something like this. And depends on addition or subtraction instruction, the timing and control unit has to generate the respective control signals. Not only this addition and subtraction instruction is not important. Another important is that where the data is available. For example, if I just take a very simple instruction present in a 8085 microprocessor, an instruction is, say, let's write over here, instruction is, say, add B. Now what does it mean? It mean, I'm sorry, this particular instruction mean accumulator equal to accumulator plus B. What does it mean? Mean content of accumulator will be added with content of B and the result will get stored in the accumulator. Now to do this particular job, suppose the instruction add B is present over here, okay, in some form, in some hexadecimal form. Now that is not important. Somehow this instruction came to the instruction register, and instruction register, from the instruction register it will go to instruction decoder, and this instruction decoder will generate some combination of ones and zeros, so that control unit realize that this is an instruction for adding an accumulator content with content of register B. So if it wants to add that, what the processor has to do, let's try to realize the steps. The processor has to read the data from B and store it into the data register. The other data is already available in the accumulator. After storing in the data register, the addition input, the addition control input to the ALU should be generated, and then the input, I mean read input of the ALU should be generated. At the same time control unit output line should be activated. I'm sorry, the accumulator and the data register output line should be activated, so that it's just like opening a gate, right? So data from accumulator, it goes to the one input one of the accumulator, and the output of the data register will go the input 2 of the accumulator, ALU, right? And then it has to be added, and after that the ALU output should be activated. After some time, maybe it defined how many time addition result take, it already defined somehow, right? So I'm not going in that, I mean exact defined the timing, just try to realize the steps. that after some time ALU output will be activated, and same time accumulator input should be activated, so that whatever result coming from ALU is available on the data bus. At the same time, whatever is available on the data bus will go in the accumulator, so that the result gets stored in the accumulator. So whatever I have discussed right till now, I mean about the whole thing, basically needs a very crucial synchronization of each and every component with proper timing. Just having mistake of 1 millisecond or 1 nanosecond may crash the result or may lead to the something wrong output. That is why this timing word is present, and that is why these timing and control units work in what you can say clock input signal. Okay, so you all know about the digital electronics subject. You know what is sequential circuit. So that means the processor that you have are actually sequential circuit. And why it is sequential, I hope now you can realize it. So this is all about executing a program in a program counter, and the stack pointer is actually used for for storing, actually is used for specially for the function calling part. Okay, function calling part means when we write a C program, for example, we write say 3 or 4 functions. A function is called within a particular function. What we know, we have seen that basically there is a stack behind it which basically holds all the addresses from where the I mean one function is basically called to another function, right? And that stack is actually the stack pointer. So this pointer is actually not the stack, I'm sorry, the stack pointer is actually representing the top of the stack. So the stack pointer actually stores the address which contains the last address from where the function call went, something like that. So you don't need to go through this stack pointer functionality to realize the computer architecture subject right now. I have given you the information about stack pointer just to make a knowledge so that it can be useful in the next other subjects. Anyway, so now question is that what are the different types of RAM possible? I mean, I can have different type of memory also, right? So if you consider about the memory part, this memory also have basically 2 types, right? We all know. One is called say primary memory, and one is called secondary memory. Now this primary memory can be again of 2 types. One is RAM and another is ROM. So the memory that I have discussed over here is basically RAM, okay, because it stores the instruction. And in this ROM is actually used for storing some permanent information that is required for running the computer. Maybe when you switch on your computer, it requires some specific program that has to be run, so that the first job, I mean when the computer is switched off and starts running, at that time obviously processor remains same, right? So that means must be there is something in the program counter at that point when the computer is about to start running, right? And some program must be stored, so that that program will always execute at the time of switch on the computer, and that is actually stored within the RAM, okay, within the ROM. And this ROM can be of several types actually. It can be say uh, programmable read-only memory. It can be erasable programmable read-only memory. It can be electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, and something like this. Okay, so basically we will, in this particular part we have not thought about how the RAM will connected within this total system, but you know this is the whole thing that by which you can realize how exactly a computer system runs for executing any instruction that you have written as a program.